What to do with a girlfriend who likes to break up. Willow was breaking up with me again. This was already the 88th time this month she had brought it up. As usual, I thought about going to the river to be sentimental and then returning home to write a reflection and reconciliation essay. However, the river breeze was so cold it made me curse loudly. I couldn't feel sad at all. With no other choice, I decided to go back and write the essay. As soon as I got home, my boss called, asking me to go on a business trip immediately. I was busy for over a month. Just as my career was about to enter a second spring, I received a call. "George, why aren't you coming to comfort me yet?" she said. I was speechless. I said, Sorry, I've been too busy and forgot. How about we just break up?" Chapter 1. The Best Man Debate. My friends were chatting, and someone teased me. "George, you've been together for so many years. When are you planning to get married?" I glanced at Willow, who was about to speak, but she snorted coldly and interrupted. "Let's see when he can prepare the 7,000 yuan bride price." She paused, looked at me, and added, "Also, I already told Makoto to be the best man." This left me speechless. I didn't know if she was pushing me to prepare the bride price or wanting her childhood friend Makoto to be the best man. I took a sip of water and said, "I've already prepared almost all the bride price, but as for the best men, a few of my brothers have said they want to come. They're my college roommates, so I don't need to trouble Makoto." Willow didn't even look at me and said, "Then just add another best man." I sighed and said, "I can't. You know the traditional expectations. I have 4 roommates, and the number of groomsmen and bridesmaids can't be odd. It's considered unlucky." She became a bit irritated and said, "Then just find another one. Makoto is so enthusiastic. How am I supposed to tell him otherwise?" The surrounding friends had already fallen silent. Such inexplicable quarrels between us were no longer surprising to them. They never got involved because I always apologized meekly. When Willow gave me the cold shoulder for 2 days, I would simply reconcile. No one wanted to play the clown in such a relationship. This time, I was particularly resolute. It's his business if he's enthusiastic, and your business how you reject him. But who to ask as the best man is my business. If I disagree with this, then I disagree. Willow stepped up to me and asked, "What if I insist?" I didn't answer, but Willow already understood that I was rejecting her. She angrily said, "Then let's break up, George. Don't contact me anymore." She slammed the door and left, leaving the remaining friends awkwardly stuck at the scene. After I said a few words, everyone joked, "George is so confident. Willow can definitely be handled. Women, you just need to coax them a bit." Someone also said, "George, you shouldn't indulge women. I think you're spoiling her too much. The wedding date you initially picked seems ordinary. I'll ask my uncle to pick a date for you guys. He's quite knowledgeable. Those who choose dates through him have never divorced." I smiled, but didn't add anything else. I walked alone, pacing back and forth to clear my mind. My mind was full of all the little things that happened between me and Willow over the years. We developed feelings for each other in high school and confirmed our relationship in college. We endured a tough long-distance relationship and went through a lengthy cohabitation adjustment period. Every stage had its failures, and each time, I did my best to make up for it. I often asked myself, why is this? Does loving someone require being so submissive? Why should a man always have to appease a woman when she's angry? Why shouldn't a man argue rationally with a woman? Why can't love be about mutual compromise and support? Why can't love be about mutual understanding and tolerance? Love and reason are not contradictory. Loving someone doesn't mean unwillingness to reason, and loving someone doesn't mean you shouldn't reason. Loving someone doesn't mean you should always give a bride price, nor does it mean you absolutely must. But every time I decided to leave this person, another voice would emerge, asking me, if you give up now, won't all these years of effort just become a joke? So I gritted my teeth and persisted, full of hope that I could move her, that we could really have a future together. Lost in thought, I passed by that river which I jokingly called the Forgiveness River, because every time Willow and I had a quarrel, I would come here alone to vent my repressed emotions and adjust my mindset. But today, it seemed especially cold. Before I could even feel the seasonal melancholy, goosebumps appeared. I quickly pulled up my coat and thought, forget it, I'll go home and be sad. Turning around, I saw a barbecue stall. It's funny, I frequent this stall too. Once, after an argument with Willow, I came here and angrily ordered 50 skewers, but my heart was so blocked that I couldn't even eat them. The owner's skills have improved day by day. I had just come from a business dinner and was once again enticed by the aroma of grilled meat. This time, I didn't dare to order much, fearing a repeat of before, but after ordering 20 skewers, I found I could eat a bit more. Busy mouth, full stomach, my heart felt less empty. At the moment, I stood at my home door. I hesitated a bit. After cohabiting for so long, this small house was full of traces of our life together. But when I opened the door, seeing the entrance cluttered with boxes of cosmetics and luxury items from deliveries, as well as shoes filling the shoe cabinet but still scattered on the floor, my anger was much greater than the frustration from the breakup. She has always been like this, never treating my money as real money. Just because I advised her to be more frugal, she turned it around and rebutted me by saying that being in a relationship would lower her quality of life. Why does she have to be in a relationship with me, as if she were some rich heiress spending her own money? But in reality, to satisfy her, I wore no more than 8 outfits throughout the year, ate no more than 5 flavors, while she spent money extravagantly without ever caring about my quality of life. Anger burned away the sadness. After tidying up everything, I opened my phone to hide some posts, fearing that I might be unhappy seeing them later. Suddenly, I saw my boss tagging me in the group chat, offering some suggestions on my proposal. When I finished work and closed the proposal document, the sky was already tinged with dawn. I was surprised to find that the first day after the breakup had passed so easily. So, on that brand new morning, I decisively blocked all of Willow's contact information. Chapter 2. A New City, a New Start. Willow still hadn't come back. I knew she was waiting for me to back down. I also thought that this time I would bend again. After all, it had become a habit. Bending for love didn't seem like such a disgraceful thing. But every time I picked up my phone, something more important would interrupt. Either I had to work on a proposal or deal with a client. Before I knew it, I hadn't contacted her for 8 or 9 days. Unconsciously, I had accomplished something I thought was absolutely impossible, and without the torturous emotions I had imagined. One morning, during our early meeting, my supervisor said that this client was very important and needed us to send someone to stay there permanently after the project ended, which would take at least 1.5 years. We would come back without much thought. I raised my hand. He glanced at me and said, "Single people first." I immediately replied, "I'm single." The entire meeting room burst into laughter. It couldn't be helped. Everyone was already familiar with the heroic tales between me and Willow. But after asking for a long time, the supervisor still couldn't find anyone else willing to go. After all, leaving the main office meant that after the 1.5 years, my status might become awkward for future career planning. This wasn't the optimal solution. But for me, aside from temporarily leaving Willow and having a clearer perspective on my feelings, the more important thing was that the client was located in Sea City, a place I had always wanted to visit. However, Willow was never willing to leave here. To her, no place was more comfortable than staying here, so she never agreed to go, even when I suggested traveling. She firmly refused to go to Sea City. Friends said she was afraid that if I went, she wouldn't want to come back. Hearing that, all I could do was smile. In the end, the supervisor decided it would be me who goes. After all, forcing something rarely works out well. Before departure, he repeatedly reminded me, "You must not quit no matter how things develop with your girlfriend. You need to handle this for the next 1.5 years. I smiled and replied, "Mission accomplished." The first days in Sea City were truly busy. I worked overtime for 2 weeks straight, not even having time to look for an apartment myself. I stayed in the hotel arranged by the client. It wasn't until the 3rd weekend that I finally had some free time to explore a bit. In reality, the city was much like what I had seen in various blogs and books, but being there in person, I could appreciate its unique characteristics. I thought to myself, I really came to the right place. When I received a call from my mom, I was somewhat surprised. It had been over 1 year since our last unpleasant parting. Since I was 25, they had been urging me to get married in various ways. By the time I was 28, without any success, every meeting would involve them scolding me for being so irresponsible. The Wang family would be finished if I kept this up. They even advised me not to take safe measures and to commit fully. My mom asked, "You're not really planning to wait until you're 30 to get married, are you?" Even if the Wong family dug 8 generations into the ground, they wouldn't find someone like you. I replied, "Isn't that why I'm taking you to see the world?" She said, "I don't have time to discuss these useless things with you. Your sister told me she saw your post saying you broke up with someone named Willow. Is it true? You used to make up within a few days, but this time I've been watching for quite a while with no signs of reconciliation. Have you finally split for good?" I grew a bit impatient and said, "Just say it straight. Don't beat around the bush. I have work to do." My mom nagged, "You have such a bad temper, just like your dad. No wonder you two can't stay in the same space." I responded helplessly, "If you don't say it, I'll hang up." I heard my mom's hurried voice say, "Don't hang up, don't hang up. I just wanted to tell you that if you're free this weekend, your aunt has set you up with someone. Do you want to meet her? She works in the same city as you." I replied, "Oh, that might not be the same city now. I forgot to tell you. I moved to a different city." My mom's voice suddenly grew louder, dissatisfied. "Why did you switch jobs so easily? You've been like this since you were a kid, never listening to others' advice and always causing trouble." Not wanting to argue with her, I directly said, "Tell me about her. What does she do? How much does my aunt get paid for arranging these unethical matches?" My mom, who had been very loud just a moment ago, stammered, "She's the goddaughter of a friend who is a CEO. She works as a secretary and is really pretty. She's only 24 and has already bought a villa through her own efforts. Can your aunt still harm you?" I was speechless. I didn't understand how she could say these things without any guilt. If she were standing in front of me right now, I'd definitely want to observe carefully whether her face was even slightly red. I laughed and said, "Are you sure about this?" My mom replied, "Do you always have to talk in such a sarcastic way? Isn't it just that you weren't satisfied with the person your aunt introduced to you last year? Didn't she apologize to you? She really didn't know about that person. Otherwise, why would she introduce him to you?" I was too tired to argue. Since she didn't know the situation, why did she have to introduce someone? My aunt introduced me to a girl, and I didn't agree, but she insisted I add her on WeChat. I was too tired to talk nonsense with my aunt, so I just added her. When I told her that I was introduced by an acquaintance, she replied, 300 for one time. What? I was shocked. Arranged dates had turned into dealing with a prostitute. To make sure I hadn't added the wrong person, I asked, "On the blind date introduced by Aunt Lee?" The other person replied in a panic, "Ah, sorry. Hello, I'm Maria." I was speechless. I had already lost the desire to continue the conversation. Chapter 3, An Empty City Gate. I didn't expect the old habits to resurface again this year. I said, "Let my aunt shut up. If I see her doing such immoral things again, I'll beat her to death when I go back for the new year." My mom replied, "You really are an ungrateful kid." The moment I hung up the phone, everything around me felt quiet. I had never realized how wonderful a peaceful environment could be. I efficiently revised a proposal and threw it into the workgroup chat. The praise from the client team's reaction emojis made me feel a bit elated. I posted on my moments, "Another day thriving like a fish in water." Although I've always had good relationships with people, I didn't expect this time to receive such enthusiastic responses. Many friends left comments below, saying, "George is really a career-oriented guy now. Haven't heard from you in a week. Turns out you've been working from home." Others commented, "Still working? Your city gate must be under siege, didn't you know?" And some said, "Why haven't you deleted your last breakup post? Haven't you reconciled yet? Didn't you prepare enough surprises this time? Your strategists, you don't care at all, huh?" I replied to each one, "I've been on a business trip lately. Let's catch up when I get back." My heart's gate is like the city gate, completely empty. Not reconciled. Just as I finished replying, my phone rang. It was Martin, a male friend who usually gets along well with Willow and often dines with us. He asked, "Buddy, where have you been enjoying yourself lately?" I replied, "Working. I've been pretty busy." He paused for a moment and then quietly said, "Have you gone on a business trip? I stopped by your house the other day and knocked on your door, but you weren't home." I said, "Yeah, I've been out of town. Do you need something?" He quickly replied, No, it's just been a while since we last met. I wanted to invite you out for dinner." I said, "Then wait until I get back from my business trip and I'll invite you." He said, "All right." Just as I was about to hang up, I heard him say, "Have you heard about Willow and Mikoto recently?" I honestly replied, "Not really. I've been really busy lately." I didn't want to engage further, but Martin continued on his own. He said, recently, Makoto has been very high profile with Willow. They've been going in and out together to various gatherings. I heard Makoto even gave Willow a big diamond ring the day before yesterday. Everyone is speculating if they're getting together. Willow hasn't given any hints, so we all assume she's still waiting for you to apologize. I suddenly laughed and, taking advantage of the silence, retorted, "What did I do wrong?" He paused for a moment and said, "Wasn't it always you who apologized first each time?" I laughed and said, "I apologized because I still cared. What if I didn't care at all?" I heard a loud door slamming on the other end, followed by Willow's best friend calling out, "Willow." The guy awkwardly hung up the phone. In reality, I knew Willow was with him the moment he started talking. We've been together for so long that I was already familiar with everyone's personalities around me. This guy and I have known each other for so long. He's very straightforward and never hesitates to speak his mind. But today, from the moment he started, it was as if something had frozen him in place. Every sentence was awkward, making it easy to notice something was different. After a long while, that guy sent me a lengthy text message, first apologizing for his sudden behavior today, then talking about Willow and Makoto, and finally saying, "Willow must regret it. She stayed at my place and my girlfriend's place for 3 days. I found her too annoying, so I agreed to help her out. She might not like Makoto, but honestly, I've always felt sorry for you, George. You need to pull yourself together and be happy. Let's grab a drink together sometime." Martin is a righteous person. I even wondered if he was intentionally acting strange to make me notice, but none of that mattered. What mattered was that I actually felt quite happy right now. By the afternoon, my phone showed the first blocked call. It was from Willow. Now in my blacklist, it's funny. I've been away for almost a month, and this was the first time Willow called me after her attempts to probe through friends failed. I suddenly felt that the past 10 years were truly filled with things not worth it. Then a text from an unknown number appeared, saying, "George, where did you put my suitcase?" George, oh George, this is the woman you've loved for 10 years. In front of you, she always remains so aloof. Even when she wants to give you a hint, she's so haughty. I didn't reply to that message, but after the evening meeting ended, I carelessly answered the call. I heard Willow's familiar voice on the other end, her cool tone mixed with a hint of anxiety. She asked, "Where are you?" I replied, "At work." She asked, "Why did you block me?" I answered, "Because we broke up." Her voice raised a bit as she asked, "You broke up and then blocked me? Why didn't you block me the other times when we broke up so many times before?" I calmly retorted, "How do you know I didn't block you before after we broke up? When did you ever call me? Every time, wasn't it me apologizing and asking to reconcile?" She asked again, "Where are you?" It was just quitting time, and colleagues were greeting me, saying they were leaving first. I got distracted and greeted them, not noticing the silence on the phone. After a long while, I realized the call was still connected, so I whispered, "Hello." She said, "This is the first time you've ignored me for someone else." There was no way to argue, or even needed to argue. She asked, "Did you go to Sea City?" I heard someone speaking with that accent just now. It's not a secret that can't be spoken about. If she went to my company, she'd know. So I openly admitted, "Yes, I'm here on a business trip this time." Her voice was noticeably downcast. She said, "You never used to go on business trips. You said if you go, no one will take care of me. You always put me first." I couldn't help but laugh and cry at the same time. A wave of indescribable emotions surged through me. I told myself, "George, you're really being too submissive. Can you please take better care of yourself in the future?" So I said, "Didn't you say that if we break up, we shouldn't contact each other anymore? I'm just following what you said. Since we're not in contact, there's no need for me to cancel my business trips, right? You know, over the years, I've given up many opportunities for you." She hesitated, but I asked, "But what?" She hesitated for a long time, but ultimately didn't say anything. After a prolonged silence, I hung up the phone. Chapter 5, The Final Farewell. This was a call cold enough to chill one's heart. She clearly sensed my departure, yet couldn't utter a single word of pleading. Fortunately, during the long passage of time, I had already mentally prepared myself, or rather, my battered heart had fully hardened. I wasn't sad anymore. I just felt relieved. I hoped that all the past could end with this one call. On the day I rented an apartment in Sea City, I invited my usual workmates to a housewarming gathering. As our group laughed and chatted while leaving the company, someone outside caught my eye. A colleague joked, "I've never seen such a beautiful woman in this building." Following their gestures, I looked over and saw Willow standing among the crowd. I hadn't seen her for about a month. Since we graduated from college and ended our long-distance relationship, we had never been apart for so long. So long that I felt it wasn't a big deal. She slowly walked towards me, her eyes cast downward. The colleagues around us glanced at us with a hint of gossip, and someone tactfully said, "Looks like George is busy tonight. Maybe we'll get together another day." It was the first time I felt that people being too considerate wasn't a good thing. But Willow clearly didn't think so. She shyly said goodbye to my colleagues. Only after everyone had left did she ask, "George, why haven't you come to comfort me yet?" At that moment, I felt all the blood in my body freeze. I had exhausted all my strength to support such a selfish and willful lover. She had come to find me. We could have talked things out calmly. But instead, she insisted on asking why I wasn't going to comfort her. Why not comfort her? Why was it me who should comfort her? Why should I comfort her? Go comfort your father at home instead. Is it that in a relationship, one concession leads to perpetual subservience? But didn't I love her hard and desperately to gain respect in our love? Finally, I exhaled and said to her face, "Because I don't want us to reconcile." When I said this sentence, I felt a sense of relief. I had finally reclaimed it. I reclaimed not just my own dignity, but also the self I had lost over time. She opened her mouth and after a long moment asked, "Why?" I said, "Because I'm too tired. I don't know when the next breakup will happen or what it will be over. It's like walking on thin ice." Willow, it wasn't until after breaking up with Willow that I realized people could live so peacefully. No need to worry about constant arguments or the looming threat of breaking up. The center and focus of life are always on oneself. You can control everything. This feeling is truly wonderful. Willow pursed her lips and asked me, "Don't you love me anymore?" Willow was a head shorter than me. When she talked to me, she always looked up at me with disdain, her eyes full of contempt, acting like she was in charge. However, this time, she pitifully lowered her gaze, not daring to meet my eyes. 10 years, George. You used the entire decade to make this proud woman lower her head," I said calmly. "Probably because I don't love you anymore." She came up to grab my sleeve, slightly agitated, but I pushed her away. Her posture hurt me, and her eyes were filled with sadness. She said, "You pushed me." I sighed and said, "Do you remember how I used to seek reconciliation with you every time?" Willow was a very proud person, and she had been pampered since childhood. Back then, I pursued her. It seemed like our destiny was scripted from that moment on. When she threw a tantrum, I laughed. When she argued, I soothed her. When she ran away, I chased after her. Countless times, she threatened to break up over the smallest things, even once when she watched a short video and asked me questions. If I didn't answer as she wanted, she would threaten to break up. At this stage, I could no longer think about the past in detail, otherwise I would always feel like I was under a curse or had lost my mind. When she heard me mention this, she first froze for a moment, then remained silent for a long time. Yes, she probably understood that it wasn't very dignified. I said, "Miss Liu, before asking someone a question, you should ask yourself first." She asked, "What do you mean?" I said, "Before asking me if I love you, ask yourself if you've ever loved me." She was left standing there as I strode forward without looking back. Chapter 6, A New World. Many things only become apparent when you boldly act on them. You realize there's a whole new world behind them. For example, discovering how good it feels to leave Willow far behind. Since then, nothing could stop me anymore. No matter where she appeared, it no longer affected me. For instance, at the negotiation table, for some reason, Willow suddenly became the client's representative, knowing nothing about new energy. She relied on her family connections to join a small to medium-sized energy company and then accompanied Chairman Wu to negotiate business with my client. As the product provider, I was naturally seated at the table, primarily responsible for answering customer inquiries. Willow asked many questions about the products, forcing me to devote 100% of my energy to dealing with her. That day, the meeting ended at 6 in the evening. Willow stood up with a smile and said, "Thank you all for your hard work today. Chairman Wu has ordered meals downstairs. Let's have something simple." My client, Manager Han immediately said, "No need for that. Today, Chairman Wu and Miss Liu are here, so it should still be my treat. Chairman Wu is hosting. I'll pay the bill." I took the opportunity, with many people around, to prepare to leave. But Manager Han lingered among the crowd for a while before suddenly asking, "Where's George? I just saw him here a moment ago." I could only respond helplessly, "He's here." He immediately smiled and called me over, saying, "George, join us. Thanks for your hard work today. Your product demonstrations and explanations were really thorough." He introduced me to Chairman Wu and then said, "When George first joined, I was worried he might lack experience because he was so young. It turns out he was sent over by his boss to placate me. The more I worked with him, the more reliable he proved to be." Chairman Wu also smiled and said, "Indeed, young and talented. The future belongs to the younger generation." As he spoke, he grabbed Willow and introduced her as well. "This is my niece, Willow. It seems you two had a good conversation earlier. Why not take this opportunity to get to know each other better?" Willow extended her hand to me and said, "Hello, Mr. Wong. I didn't expect such a lively dinner gathering." When our group arrived at a restaurant downstairs, we bumped into someone familiar, Makoto. He confidently walked up to greet Willow, saying, "Willow, why didn't you mention you were here today when you texted me?" That remark was very telling. From the frequency and content of their messages, it was clear that their relationship was not insignificant. Chairman Wu laughed and said, "She's a friend of Willow's, right? Why don't you all sit together?" Makoto immediately nodded and walked forward, grabbing Willow's shoulder in a possessive manner, saying, "Sure, thank you." A colleague standing next to me said, "Is he staking his claim? Doing this in a professional setting is really stupid." Willow looked a bit flustered and didn't join in. She glanced back at us. Our group blocked the entrance, making it a bit of a spectacle. Manager Han quickly invited us to go inside. I excused myself to go to the restroom, returning only when the dishes started being served. As soon as I walked in, I heard Makoto say, "Willow and I aren't in that kind of relationship. Don't get the wrong idea. She has a boyfriend." Unexpectedly, one of my brilliant colleagues chimed in, "Her boyfriend must be really unlucky, ah." I saw Manager Han rub his forehead helplessly and asked, "Why are you here today? Normally, you don't attend these dinners, right?" I realized that the colleague who was standing at the entrance earlier was a strong, built man. One of those colleagues known for sharp-tongued remarks that even made the boss uneasy. He remained unfazed and said, "I came to eat. The meeting ran over time, so I came for the meal." Manager Han sighed and introduced him. "Chairman Wu, Miss Liu, this is our design director for the entire service line, David." Makoto sarcastically said, "I didn't expect it. Manager Han, your design director is quite a big guy. He looks like he just came back from a construction site. Is design a physically demanding job here?" Chapter 7, The Sharp-Tongued Director. Manager Han simply rolled his eyes and then showed a sympathetic expression. It took me 10 minutes to realize who he was showing sympathy for. I heard David say, "You look so weak. My large build comes from working out. You must be overindulging yourself. It's a pity. Lifting weights can make you physically stronger, but it doesn't improve your brain. Otherwise, I would suggest you give it a try. Ever since you walked in, I wanted to ask, who are you? What are you doing here? With that appearance, you look like a bum. Who would invite someone like you to a business dinner and then coincidentally run into Willow? If you're claiming to be Miss Liu's boyfriend, I can still consider you a simp. You have no real relationship. What are you bragging about? You don't even deserve to be a simp." Makoto was left speechless, too angry to respond, while everyone at the table struggled to hold back their laughter. After saying all that, he somehow found time to drink 3 bowls of soup and eat 5 plates of rice. Then he turned to his boss and said, "Manager Han, that question I just asked is particularly important. From now on, leave this mess to you. Make sure you get the answers. This determines which companies we need to blacklist next." He grabbed his coat with one hand and patted my arm with the other, saying, "All right, everyone, we'll take our leave first. Enjoy your meal." For some reason, I instinctively followed him. He lives in the same neighborhood as me. It's very close to our company, and most of our colleagues rent nearby. Throughout the journey, I was trying to figure out how to tell this guy that Willow was my ex-girlfriend. Today, he had so gallantly clashed with Makoto and even saved me from trouble when he left, and I couldn't bear to deceive him. Just as I was racking my brain on how to start the conversation, he made a questioning remark to my right, saying, "Sigh, George, your ex-girlfriend really isn't great." He looked at my shocked face and suddenly burst into laughter. He said with a smile, "Why so surprised? Didn't she block you on your way to the company that day?" I went downstairs 5 minutes later and heard everything. And today, she was so obvious in the meeting room, staring at you and asking you questions. Do you think the manager didn't notice? He specifically called you over. Otherwise, why would he meddle between the client and us and then starve this third party? Even though I didn't know him well, the conversation had opened up, making things feel much more relaxed. We chatted a lot on our way back. I found out he was actually 10 years older than me, yet he looked even more energetic than I did. He laughed. "Why lie to you? Your ID will explain everything. I never have a steady girlfriend. If I like someone, I date them, and if it's boring, I break up. I never play the role of a simp. I spend all the money I earn myself, work out regularly, play with cars, and do whatever makes me happy." Through him, I seemed to see another possibility for life. Actually, I always earned quite well, but besides supporting my family, I also had to keep up with Willow's lifestyle pace. Just like she always said, she couldn't lower her quality of life, so her spending on food, clothing, and other essentials was always extravagant. So many times, I would prepare things that didn't match my own living standards for her. For example, a 1500 electric toothbrush or a 150 honeydew melon, and so on. It might not sound exorbitant, but for someone with a moderate income and a habit of saving, it was actually a burden. This compressed the small portions I could spend on myself to almost nothing. Chapter 8. The Price of Irreplaceability. David sensed something from my silence. He got straight to the point and asked me, "Do you still love her?" I shook my head with a smile. "I can't." He shrugged and said, "Then stop liking her, or find another woman to like. If that doesn't work, change again. How about having a brother introduce someone to you?" As we walked and talked, we discovered that we lived in adjacent buildings. When we said goodbye, he waved and said, "Let's go out for drinks another day. Let's have a good time tonight." Looking into his sincere eyes, I asked, "Tomorrow?" He immediately replied, "Sure. Wait for me after work tomorrow." When I got home, I opened my phone and saw my colleagues discussing the matter in our group chat. Someone said, "Damn, it has to be David. Not only did he punish Manager Han, but now he even dares to take on clients." David replied, "If you have the guts, let him fire me." A colleague responded, "Haha, stop it. He doesn't even come to work to avoid bothering you. How could he fire you? David is the only all-rounder on our company's service line. In other words, from design to development and production, he can handle everything by himself and does it very efficiently." David added, "Of course. I have a new service line launching tomorrow. Otherwise, I couldn't be so bold. Haha. No company would let go of such a talent. Being irreplaceable is your core competitive advantage." This phrase can be applied to any situation. David dominates the workplace because of his strong capabilities, but he also needs to deliver results. I once made Willow irreplaceable in my relationship, so she could shamelessly throw tantrums at me. Her support was my love, but she didn't understand one thing. Love without reciprocity can never develop into everlasting love. Eventually, it will either fade away or be replaced. Let's encourage each other, Willow. Manager Han spent less than half a day maintaining his facade before being subdued by the newly launched service line. He happily ran to David's office and asked, "David, when will today's testing be finished?" David responded loudly enough for the entire office to hear, "Will be done after afternoon tea." Manager Han understood and said, Got it. Today, I'll arrange afternoon tea for everyone. If you have anything you want to eat, register at the front desk. Feel free to take as much as you want." Chairman Wu's collaboration with the company continued. Willow had also come to visit the company a few times. Manager Han arranged for me to introduce her to the side, while David shook his head and said nothing more. After the service time ended that day, Willow said to me, "George, can we have dinner together?" I really didn't want to deal with her, but remembering David's advice, if you don't make a decisive break, things will only get worse, I was glad I listened to him because I heard Willow's apology. She sat across from me, tears streaming down her face, and said to me, "I'm sorry, George. I've always been too willful, and I'm sorry to you. Can you forgive me? I promise I won't bring up breaking up again. If you agree, I'm willing to marry you and register our marriage immediately. I don't want any bride price. Who would have thought how much I once longed to start a family with Willow? How much I wanted her to become my wife. 10 years ago. No. Even a year ago. I couldn't have imagined that the first thought when I knew Willow was willing to marry me would be to find it funny. At that moment, it was indeed quite laughable. This time, it was my turn to ask her, why? She wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and earnestly replied, because I love you, George. During the long time you were away, I realized I couldn't live without you. I think about you in everything I do. Maybe to me, you're like air. Normally, I don't feel your importance, but once I lose you, I can't live at all. Chapter 9, the last lesson. Such a supreme compliment, I wish I could feel it. Only love that can be perceived can be called true love. Otherwise, wouldn't all the emotions we express verbally become truths? I smiled and said, Willow, do you know what you've taught me? She lifted her gaze and looked intently at me, her eyes reflecting my own image. I continued, it proves one thing. No matter who you lose, you can still live well. I picked up my phone from the table and tucked it into my pocket, smiling at her. I'm giving you this sentence today. You can take the coming days to really feel it, starting with this dinner meant for just you. Once again, I left her with my back. This time, I didn't try to observe her reactions from any angle, whether it was the reflection in the door or the moment of turning around. She could no longer affect me. No matter how great, I was reborn, and it only took half a year. All lingering ailments will slowly scab over with time, eventually becoming a harmless mark, nothing more. 2 years later, the service line that David and I developed began to turn a profit officially. Every minute, commissions were being recorded. During a work break, he asked me, do you want to go to the gym this afternoon? I'll bring a few girls to train with us. Seeing his build, I shook my head and declined. I was too tired. I'm a homebody. I tried it for half a month and realized I just couldn't stick with it. I still prefer a life of eating until full and then sleeping until full. David didn't mind. He laughed and said, but you have to go meet the people I set you up with, right? My junior from college is super cute. Turns out she was waiting for me here. Before I could refuse, he added, you're not planning to go back and chase after someone else, are you? He was always sarcastic towards Willow, even though we had been working closely together these past few years. I was speechless and said, come on, I like cute ones. When we met, I realized she was truly cute, the kind of cute that's full of energy. A kind of cute that even makes Willow feel a bit inadequate. Once, I went out to eat with her, and Willow happened to see us. After that, Willow didn't come to work for 3 days. David said she went back to heal. That's fine. I had already healed myself long ago. Let her heal her wounds on her own. I went on the date. Goodbye.